Game of Thrones. It's finally back. Yes, after several years of waiting, Game of Thrones has finally returned with House of the Dragon Season 2. The grand story of fire and blood. The dance of the dragons. The grand civil war of the Targaryens. And man, can it get a little confusing. As much as I love this show, the story that's being told of the Dance of the Dragons is like one of the most craziest time periods in all of Game of Thrones lore. If you are not like a hardcore Game of Thrones fan, things can get just a bit confusing with all of the new characters, the scheming, and the many moving parts happening in this show. So that's why today we are going to be speedrunning House of the Dragon Season 1, so we can all get a good refresher going into Season 2. So, what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Episode 1 of House of the Dragons takes place after the death of King Jaehaerys, where under his rule, Westeros has had 60 years of peace and prosperity. In the year 101, Jaehaerys would choose his heir, his eldest male descendant, Viserys Targaryen. Episode 1 of House of the Dragons begins in the 9th year of King Viserys Targaryen's reign. Viserys is currently planning a grand tournament to celebrate the upcoming birth of his son, who would be named heir to his throne. However, things don't go to plan. There are unexpected occurrences during the birth, and King Viserys is forced to choose between the life of his queen or the life of his unborn son. Viserys chooses the life of his heir, his wife dying from the surgery to remove the baby, yet, in an even crueler twist of events, so does die his newborn son. Otto Hightower, the Hand of the King, being a scheming man, decides to place his daughter Alicent Hightower, the best friend of Rhaenyra, the daughter of King Viserys, near the king in the hopes that she can seduce him and become his new queen consort. Viserys, now without a wife, is pressured by his small council in the Hand of the King, Otto Hightower, to name a new heir, as his current heir is his younger brother, Daemon Targaryen. Daemon is a feared warrior and the current commander of the Gold Cloaks, though many doubt Daemon's ability to rule and fear that he is too cruel to be king. Viserys, despite his council's advisement, decides to name his only child, his daughter, Rhaenyra Targaryen, heir to his throne. At the end of episode 1, Viserys reveals to Rhaenyra Aegon the Conqueror's dream, the thing that drove him to conquer and make the 7 kingdoms of Westeros whole, a dream of ice and fire, and of the prince that was promised, a prophecy that foresaw the end of the world of men, beginning with a terrible winter coming from the distant north, a winter that will destroy the world of the living unless a Targaryen is there to unite men against this oncoming darkness. Moving to episode 2, Daemon has fled King's Landing, claiming Dragonstone as his own and stealing a dragon egg. Fighting rages on in the Stepstones from a group of pirate-like warriors called the Triarchy. Alicent continues to grow closer to King Viserys as part of her father's plan, while the king has suffered an infected cut from the Iron Throne that threatens to spread to the rest of his body. Sir Criston Cole is named the newest Knight of the Kingsguard, and Otto Hightower is sent to Dragonstone to convince Daemon to cede the castle. Rhaenyra arrives at this meeting against her father's wishes and is able to convince her uncle to relinquish this dragon egg and to give up his claims to Dragonstone. Viserys decides that he will marry Alicent Hightower, spurring the offer of marriage from Lord Corlys Velaryon of Driftmark. The episode ending with Lord Corlys requesting help from Daemon Targaryen and his dragon in dealing with the fighting in the Stepstones. Episode 3 opens with Daemon on his dragon Syraxis attacking the Triarchy in the Stepstones. Alicent is now pregnant with Viserys' second child, and King Viserys is planning a hunt in the honor of his newborn child. This hunt is also an opportunity to find Rhaenyra a husband, something that she is not very keen on. Otto tells Alicent that Viserys should name her firstborn son Aegon heir, Otto believing that if Rhaenyra were to ascend to the throne, the realm would be torn apart simply because she is a woman. Viserys insists that Rhaenyra must marry to shore up her claim as heir, Viserys telling Rhaenyra that she will not be supplanted as heir to the throne. Meanwhile, Viserys has sent word that he will aid the fighting in the Stepstones to his brother Daemon. Daemon, spurred on by his brother's letter, ventures into the enemy encampment alone, baiting out their forces into a surprise attack by his own, routing them and claiming victory. Episode 4 opens with Daemon returning from his victory in the Stepstones, Viserys embracing his brother, who has now redeemed himself. Rhaenyra still has not found a suitable man to marry and sneaks out of the castle with her uncle Daemon for a bit of rabble-rousing. There's a little bit of Targaryen ancestry, Rhaenyra ultimately deciding to fuck Sir Criston Cole. Word gets out about her knight escapades, although Rhaenyra denies it. Viserys believes that Otto was using his daughter Alicent to get near the throne, removing Otto as Hand of the King. Episode 5 opens with Daemon killing his wife, the Lord of the Vale, freeing him up to marry once again. Viserys and Rhaenyra venture to Driftmark to propose marriage between Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon, Lord Corlys Velaryon's son, the only problem being that Sir Laenor is gay, so the matter of children will become an issue. Larys Strong, the youngest son of Lord Strong, sows the seeds of doubt in Alicent and begins sowing his schemes. Criston Cole asks Rhaenyra to run away with him and get married in Essos, but she denies him, and he doesn't take this very well. Criston Cole admitting to Alicent that he did Rhaenyra. Viserys and Rhaenyra return to King's Landing, and Viserys' condition is beginning to worsen. The wedding celebrations for Rhaenyra and Laenor begin, Alicent arriving late wearing green, a symbol of war for the Hightowers, and between Rhaenyra and Alicent. A scuffle breaks out at the wedding celebration, Criston Cole killing Laenor's boyfriend after he pointedly questions him about his relationship with Rhaenyra. Episode 6 takes place 10 years after the events of Episode 5, and begins with Rhaenyra giving birth to her third son, Joffrey. Immediately after giving birth, Queen Alicent requests to see the child, Rhaenyra post-labor taking the child personally to her. This is because it is a not well-hidden secret that Rhaenyra's children, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey, were fathered by Harwin Strong, the elder brother of Larys Strong. Alicent and Rhaenyra's children train to become dragon riders. The boys play a trick on Alicent's youngest son, Aemon, who does not have a dragon, presenting him with a pig dressed up as a dragon, a slight that he will not forget. Alicent presses Viserys on the nature of Rhaenyra's children, but King Viserys continues to ignore the allegations that Alicent is pushing. Criston Cole has now pledged himself to Queen Alicent and holds a strong spite for Rhaenyra. Daemon has married Laena Velaryon, the sister of Laenor Velaryon. Criston Cole trains Aegon, Aemon, Jace, and Luke, pitting Aegon against the younger Jace. Sir Strong, the father of Jace and Luke, fails to hide his dislike for the treatment of his hidden sons, striking Criston Cole in the yard, all but confirming him as the father of the children. Troubles still rage in the Stepstones as Rhaenyra and Alicent face off against each other in the small council meeting. Lionel Strong resigns as Hand of the King after his son Harwin's outburst in the yard and the knowledge that Harwin is the father of Rhaenyra's children. Alicent laments her struggles to Larys Strong about Rhaenyra and her children, Larys continuing to sow the seeds of doubt within Alicent. Daemon's wife, Laena Velaryon, has problems giving birth. Laena, knowing that the birth will kill her and the child, has her dragon Vhagar set her on fire. Larys Strong takes it upon himself to act, instigating the Great Fire of Harrenhal that kills his father, Lord Strong, and his brother Harwin Strong, making him the new Lord of Harrenhal. Episode 7 opens with the Targaryens meeting on Driftmark for the funeral of Lady Laena. Otto Hightower has been remade Hand of the King. Rhaenyra and Daemon are reunited after many years away, the two of them finally getting it on.
Nice.
Meanwhile, Aemon, in his quest for a dragon, decides to claim the now riderless dragon Vhagar, against all odds managing to claim the massive dragon for himself. A scuffle then breaks out between Daemon's children and Aemon after they find out that he has claimed their mother's dragon, the fight ending with Luke stabbing Aemon in the eye after Aemon makes a joke about their father being Harwin Strong. Aemon admits that he called Jace Lord Strong, and puts the blame on his elder brother Aegon. Alicent, in her anger, wants to take Luke's eye in revenge for the loss of Aemon's eye, taking the cat's paw dagger from Viserys. A scuffle then breaks out between Alicent and Rhaenyra, Alicent, in her anger, slicing Rhaenyra's arm with the Valyrian steel dagger. Rhaenyra asks Daemon to marry her and to help her face the Greens, so they concoct a plot to fake her husband Laenor's death so he can be free to run away, and Rhaenyra can be free to marry Daemon. Episode 8 begins 6 years after the events of Episode 7. The episode opens with reports that Lord Corlys Velaryon took a grave wound in the fighting in the Stepstones and he possibly might die. Rhaenyra, Daemon, and their children now live on Dragonstone. They receive news that Lord Corlys might be dead and that his brother is putting forth his claim to Driftmark, and then calling in the legitimacy of Rhaenyra's son Luke, who would inherit Driftmark. Because of this, Rhaenyra and her family are forced to go to King's Landing to defend her son's claim. Viserys' condition has worsened again, and he is now bedridden and close to death, and constantly fed painkillers, milk of the poppy. Unable to perform his duties as king, Alicent and her father Otto rule the realm in his stead. Rhaenyra meets with the bedridden Viserys, pleading with him to back Luke in his claim to Driftmark. Rhaenyra and Daemon introducing Viserys to their two new children, Aegon and Viserys, named after her father. Luke and Jace are also reunited with Aemond, who has now grown into a fierce warrior. Rhaenyra meets with Princess Rhaenys, vying for her support and offering a marriage pact between Laena's children and her own. Lord Corlys' brother presents his petition for the succession of Driftmark to fall to him, but in a surprise move, King Viserys himself comes to preside judgment over these petitions, King Viserys ruling that the claim shall pass to Lucerys as Lord Corlys wished. In anger, Lord Corlys' brother speaks out against Rhaenyra's children, calling them bastards, to which Daemon promptly cuts his head in half. The Targaryen family meets for an awkward dinner that evening where tensions begin to rise, as Aemon makes a comment about Rhaenyra's sons being strong boys. Rhaenyra and her family decide to leave home for Dragonstone that evening. Later on that evening, Alicent visits King Viserys, who in a fugue states believe that he is speaking to Rhaenyra. Viserys tells Alicent of Aegon's dream of the prince that was promised, Alicent believing that Viserys is telling her that he wishes their son Aegon to be named his successor, as later that night, Viserys would finally die in his bed. Episode 9 opens with Alicent believing King Viserys has named their son Aegon the successor of his crown. Alicent does a little coup, installing Aegon as the new king of Westeros. Aegon, though, has gone missing. As the king's guards search for him, they discover the depravity that Aegon has gotten up to in his free time, as well as his many bastard children. Alicent and her father disagree on how to proceed, both wanting to install Aegon as king, but Alicent not wanting to kill Rhaenyra and her family, as Otto was working behind the scenes all along to install Aegon. Aegon is crowned king when all of a sudden Princess Rhaenys bursts in on her dragon, but she decides to spare the newly crowned king and his family. Episode 10 opens with Princess Rhaenys arriving at Dragonstone, informing Rhaenyra that her father, King Viserys, has died, and that her half-brother Aegon has been crowned king. Sir Eric arrives at Dragonstone bearing King Viserys' crown, which he gives to Rhaenyra, swearing his loyalty to her as Rhaenyra is crowned Queen of Westeros. Otto Hightower arrives at Dragonstone with a proposal for Rhaenyra from Alicent to give up her claim to the throne in exchange for their lives. Lord Corlys has managed to survive his grave wounds, making his way to Dragonstone to declare for Rhaenyra. With now two rulers vying for power, both sides begin reaching out to the lords of Westeros for support. Rhaenyra sending her eldest son Jace to speak with the Starks, and her youngest son Luke to Storm's End to meet with the Baratheons. However, someone is already waiting at Storm's End, Lucerys' uncle, Aemon Targaryen. Lucerys flees Storm's End on his dragon, but is pursued by Aemon on Vhagar. Remember, Lucerys is the one who took Aemon's eye. Both boys begin to lose control of their dragon, Lucerys' dragon attacking Vhagar, causing Vhagar to pursue the dragon, the immense dragon with one bite cleaving Luke and Eryx in half. Season 1 of House of the Dragon ends as Rhaenyra receives word of the death of her son Luke at the hands of Aemon and Vhagar, the Dance of the Dragons having seemingly officially begun. And yes, this was the speedrun for Season 1 of House of the Dragon, the beginning of the Dance of the Dragons, the Targaryen Civil War, one of my favorite pieces of lore in all of the Game of Thrones grand lore, and the book Fire and Blood. I really do enjoy this show and the on-screen adaptation of the book Fire and Blood. I think the showrunners have done an awesome job with it so far. Yes, they have made some changes, but I think a lot of these creative changes have been good and have helped with the flow of the show. And on the plus side, Fire and Blood being a book, a story that is already written, a history of Westeros in a way, the ending is already done, so we don't have to worry about the showrunners pulling a Game of Thrones and f***ing up the ending. With that being said, by the time this video goes live, episode 1 of Season 2 of House of the Dragon has already aired, and I've already uploaded a full review and breakdown of said episode, so why don't you go check that video out if you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, then please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to help support me and to put this video into the algorithm. Again, if you did enjoy this video, then why don't you check out some of our other videos on screen now, like my breakdown of Season 2, Episode 1 of House of the Dragon. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and continuing to support me. Drink your water, hug your mother. Until next time, stay safe out there. Peace, love, Adu.